Hello, my name is Sarah Martin and I am the quitting coach, and coming to you from a different location today. See how this works out as I'm doing my best to take good care of myself, and being outside and being in nature is certainly one of those ways that I take care of myself. So you may hear some train noises behind me. I'm hoping they'll cooperate a little bit, but hopefully it's not too distracting. So I always start these episodes with a self-care practice. And last week, I kind of want to continue on. I kind of came to you in my process of processing some deep emotions and talking about collective energy and how much, a lot of times things that are going on around us can affect how we're feeling. So we talked about completing the cycle of stress. And I brought this into my yoga class as well. And I've been doing a lot of things, really shoring up our physical bodies is the best way that we can really serve those around us as well, right? So when we're feeling good and we're shored up, our interactions with people are much more loving and kind. So I do know to make this a priority. And I'm trying right now not to guilt and shame myself that it can feel like a full-time job, right, with my nervous system. And I just, keeping and paying attention to my emotions and my mental state and how I'm feeling. So I'll talk about that a little bit as we go further, but one of the ways we talked about completing that stress cycle, right? We talked about, if you didn't watch last week, we just talked about the society that we live in now, where we just hold and we hold and we hold, and there's so much coming at us, right? When we used to live out here, there were real threats of, bears and lions and those kinds of things. And a lot of times there was natural mechanisms to shake that off, right? Or if we talked about a dog that almost got hit by a car, and you'll see them just shake off their stress. Whereas, we're not doing that. Most of us, we are anesthetizing from it in some way, right? We're just numbing it. It's still there in our body, but we're drinking over it, we're smoking over it, we're Netflixing over it, we're scrolling over it. So this is where I have to understand that the fact that I don't have a whole lot of those things that I use to numb out means that, yeah, I do feel things pretty deeply, and it can feel like a full-time job to keep myself aligned. And it's important to me, and there's so much healing and expansion in just doing that, and I'll share a little bit of that as well. But what I've been doing, we're like actually shaking things off. So if you're in a place where you can actually just shake your arms, if you can get up and jump around, please do that. But again, just shaking your hands, shaking your arms, just shaking it off, right? Just shaking it off. And then there's something in yoga you can do where you're just twisting your body, your hips. It's a Kripalu yoga move. Actually, they just let you spin your body. And we did this in yoga this week. And I was saying, as a little kid, we used to do a lot of these movements, right? And then just let yourself settle. Just let yourself settle. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Coming on into those soft belly breaths. Just letting it settle. And again, closing your eyes helps you come inward, helps you stop being distracted from everything around you. And again, just noticing, right? So a little bit of shaking, a little bit of coming inside. And sometimes we can feel like we just had a half-hour nap. So just offering practices with each episode that you can take into your life and put into your toolbox as you are caring for your own nervous system, and maybe on a quitting journey, or considering a quitting journey. So there's all sorts of quitting that I address here. As I've shared, I've had most addictions as far as substances and relationships and shopping and food. So, there's that kind of quitting. I just quit my corporate job about 6 months ago, and and really finding my way with that. And the quitting that I want to talk about today is really about quitting trying to hold it all together, right? So last week I came in and again, I was really kind of in my process of just feeling the weight of the world and this Roe versus Wade and just a lot of the oppression, the war in the Ukraine, the divisiveness where, people are just at each other. And so that can feel really heavy to a really sensitive person. So understand if you're super tired or, there's certain things you're biting people's heads off, paying attention to those kinds of things to understand, okay, what is going on around me and how am I taking care of myself, right? So what is on the other side of some of that falling apart, right? So whether it's biting people's heads off or just avoiding the falling apart, right? It comes out in other ways. It comes out in anger when we're not addressing what's really underneath, right? If I'm biting someone's heads off or I don't want to get out of bed, we want to go exploring, right? We want to say, well, what's under here, right? They say we need to feel to heal, right? You got to go through it to be on the other side of it. And so many of us were taught that we want to avoid that at all costs, right? Because it's not fun. It's not fun. I can tell you from last Monday, it's not that fun. But what we look at, and I attended a lovely yoga class that talked about pain as a portal, right? Like how much healing and expansion do we do when we're feeling really good, right? So it's worth the inquiry when we're feeling like crap, right? Like maybe I don't reach for the ice cream. Maybe I don't reach for the beer. Maybe I don't reach for the cigarette or the pot. Maybe I sit with it. Maybe I come out to a spot like this. My stream is over there where I cry my eyes out. Maybe I just feel the grief that's on my heart and I see what's there, because on the other side of quitting, trying to hold it all together, a lot of the times is this clarity, this freedom, this wisdom, right? So for me last week, when I really inquired, I let myself just write like 10 pages of how I was feeling, and also did some thought work around it too, which I'll be sharing here as well, of okay, yep, these are my feelings and I'm going to honor them, I'm going to inspect them. And then I'm going to see, are there different thoughts that I can choose that might help me get beyond this, right? Expand, right? Move beyond. So for example, last week, right? It was weight of the world, just really everything that's going on and feeling a little helpless, right? Like, okay, so I coach people, to live their best lives and individually, certainly make an impact. And I'm raising 2 teenagers. And when I'm in my heart and I'm feeling good, like I am today, and on the other side of that, I know I'm making a difference, right? But when I'm in the weight of the world, I can feel like none of it matters. Why bother, right? Why even bother? That I'm not going to change the world, right? So by going into that, allowing myself to feel that hopelessness, the helplessness, I just sat with it, and I just, sometimes, when you hear things, right, when you go into your feelings, then all of a sudden I call them downloads, and you hear higher wisdom, right? And what really happened was my grief turned to anger, really, right? I got fired up a bit of like, okay, well, I can at least serve in this small sphere, right? I can have an impact, and what I do does matter, right? In my family, with my kids, holding space for them, making sure they're okay, is important, right? So what I wanted to share today, again, that pain as a portal, and I love that I hear this cardinal so loud right now. So those are other messengers, other signs to look for as, you start down a path of, whatever it might be that you're quitting, whether it's just, a negative pattern in your life, negative thought patterns, relationships, substances. We want to lean into feeling held and supported. So anytime sitting on the earth and in nature can certainly help us with that. Like I said, cardinals are my messengers a lot of the times when I'm running, actually I just met with a client today and it just felt so much abundance and excitement and love coming her way. I had chills when I left. I walked outside and there was the cardinal. So I just love little messengers, something to play with for sure. Something I wanted to share today, I actually brought my papers out to the woods here. This is called the emotional vibrational, or what is it called? Vibrational emotional scale. Okay, so it's probably backwards on the screen, but these are what we label like lower vibration emotions, right? And then the higher vibration emotions. So they label on a scale. And what I just really want to share is that unworthiness, shame, guilt, apathy are on the bottom, right? And doubt and depression are kind of in the middle here. And then anger is above that. Jealousy and frustration above anger, right? So I want to kind of stay in these lower parts because this is the part where we grow, right? Like, how much do we grow when we are feeling abundant, radiant, and compassionate, right? Like, that's kind of the goal, if you will. But as I've shared here, no, like, we're gonna stop being sold that we get to ride the pink cloud of compassion, radiance, and abundance. Like, yes, that is our natural state, that's here, but this other stuff is going to come in, right? So how do we deal with that? That's the best place to start, because a lot of us, again, when we're quitting, if we're going to quit holding it all together, if we're going to really inquire on what's going on within us, we have a lot of this going on in addition to our beautiful open hearts. So again, using that pain as a portal, right? When we go in, if I'm feeling hopeless and helpless like I was last week, right? And I let the grief, I let the sadness, I let the despair just out, whatever that looks like, whether you're writing about it. Not everyone's as watery as I am. I cry a lot, and again, just sitting out here and like letting the stream kind of take it away. Right? And then what came in was more of that anger and that frustration, right? Which moves you to action a lot of times, right? So you just keep asking, what is this informing me, right? What is this anger informing me? And for me, it was like, be part of the solution. Be part of the solution. Stop denying how far you've come, right? Because I've been feeling this anxiety lately, and I'm just letting it inform me. It's been making me run a lot more because that helps me rid myself of anxiety. So how about if I don't label it bad, right? It just is. It's just here. It's just like weather. It's like, oh, it's raining a little bit. Let me go be with that. Oh, the sun just came out, So really not latching on or, thinking it's going to take you down. Right? So I used to think like it would take me down. And what I have to recognize is like, yeah, you've had some anxiety, but you also don't drink, don't smoke, are taking really good care of yourself, So remembering just how far I've come in those moments can help too. So again, just if you're struggling, if the weight of the world is kind of on your shoulders as well, maybe we just kind of narrow the focus, right? That we just start saying, okay, what's in my sphere of control, right? And by control, I mean inquiry, right? What can I sit with? What needs to be felt? What do I need to sit with? So that might be an exercise for you in your lower moments this week. Again, maybe you just start writing. Sometimes with my clients, I just give them the exercise of I am sad, and let them write out why, all the reasons they feel sad, and get it out of the body, right? It's kind of that shaking off, right? Any kind of expression, talking in the car, screaming in the field, certainly that's happened here as well. So, any kind of relievers like that can be really, really helpful. And again, feeling your feelings proactively instead of avoiding them can be super helpful. Had a chance to kind of reflect on that this week, as well as my college freshman had come home 2 days ago. So I was just really reflecting on how much I expected to be sad and a little lonelier and miss him so much while he was gone. And my daughter and I laughed that we really have adjusted to him being gone an awful lot. And it's more of an adjustment when he comes back, right? And I'm doing some things to make sure that the summer, is not spent in resentment and frustration, in doing a citizenship agreement. I'll let you know about, the processing that happened before Jake went to college as well. That's my son. But it's been interesting. We have to adjust to them coming back, and then writing this citizen agreement is something I wanted to share, because I was going to make it house rules, but then I started setting some ground rules before Jacob came home to say, here's some things that are going to need to happen, right? Just based on the Christmas visit, the holiday visit, and then he said, I know I wasn't a very good citizen. So that's why I'm calling it the citizenship agreement. Hanging up towels, the glasses from the room come down, all those things that build resentment and frustration. This is another thing we can do proactively, right? Not shaking it off, but we can be proactive in asking people for what we need. So that's another offering I give you, that I'm playing with this week as we adjust to another person in the house. And I derailed myself a little bit from saying that, the year before Jacob left, I allowed myself to feel that grief, right? This grief of a transition in my motherhood, right? In the real launching of these kids, right? My daughter will be a senior next year too. So I let myself feel those feelings and that fear, and realizing now on the other side, so much of it was not real. Like, things were fine once Jake was gone, and did really well in school and is finding their way. And that's our job as parents, right? Is to launch these kids. So I really do believe, though, that I was able to hold that space and celebrate his departure, because I let myself feel the sadness. I let myself feel the grief, right? And I'm still in that stage. I'm sure it will be even more so when my youngest goes and there's no one in the house, right? That's a whole different scene, right? So I am not partnered up at the moment. So I think that silence probably gets louder. But again, it's really freeing and healing. And when we're proactive about feeling these feelings, what happens is we make more room for lightness and brightness and radiance, right? So really just following up from last week to say, do not be scared to inquire. Really carving out space. If you have to run away to the woods to do it, I highly recommend it. There's so much wisdom here. In fact, I am sitting behind a rock that talks about, every walk in nature brings wisdom. So really, I invite you to do that this week, of just making more time. Everything's more spacious. Everything slows down. Everything makes a little bit more sense when we're out in the woods and in nature, and remembering really where we came from, right? That we're made of these elements, that we are soil and water and fire, and helping to get us to know ourselves a little bit more, right? Because we can stay so busy because we're scared to sit with ourselves, right? In the beginning, I was petrified. And the reason I drank and did drugs and ran with tried to find my value in other people is because I was petrified to sit with me and some of the things that have happened to me in my past, to sit and heal and feel and ask for help, right? And ask, please help me, guide me, support me, right? But you'd be surprised when you start asking, you know, the answers that start coming. So I offer that to you to just say, you know, on the other side of quitting, trying to hold it all together is freedom. Is freedom, is health, is clarity, is, you know, better relationships. So I'm really inviting you to allow yourself to fall apart whenever you need to, whenever you need to. And if you ever want space held for that, you can, you know, find me at Sarah Martin Quitting Coach on Facebook, and or email me at smadkour29@gmail.com. That's smadcore@gmail.com. And I've just been having a lot of fun holding space for people to fall apart. And then they check in a day or two later and say, oh, I'm feeling so much better. Actually just got a text while I was recording this of somebody who was dealing with something really heavy with their family, and we held space for it, and we did the work around it as far as, you know, any heavy energy around it, and she held a vision for it going well, and she just texted me, all went well today. So that's the part I have to remember, that having an impact in just a small way is so important. So don't underestimate that either. Hold doors for people, smile at people, tell them you like their shirt. I just met a friend of my son's, and my son introduced me, and this kid was like, oh, she's gorgeous. And you know what, like, I'm sorry, day made, you know. It probably embarrassed the heck out of my son, but I was like, and he was just sweet, and his energy was beautiful, and, you know, sharing those positive thoughts can make an old woman's day. So pass it along. I love Gabby Bernstein. She always says, you know, when you're feeling helpless, go help someone else. So that can also serve as well. But don't do that as an additional way to avoid what you're really feeling, right? So go in here, get that pen to paper, shake it off, and I hope everyone has a great week. Take care.